if somebody was to ask, like you have a CBD brand and somebody comes to you, how does CBD work in my body? What is it going to do to me?
So we're still understanding, the entire pharmacological profile and the mechanisms by which cannabidiol works in the body. However, to give you some idea, I know that we talked about, I'm pulling up my notes that I have from the show. So what's really cool is the systems at which cannabis affects and CBD affects, such as pain, with THC, it's things like nausea. We're able to see how the endocannabinoidome actually is the new term they're using to encompass things that extend beyond just the CB1, CB2 receptor. There's like vanilloid receptors, there's opioid receptors that CBD has peripheral effects on. So they realize yeah, absolutely. So they realize that we can't just explain all of the endocannabinoid functioning and phenomena through CB1 and CB2. They're like, it's not enough to explain everything that's going on. Then they started to realize, it acts with TRPV1 receptors, like the vanilloid system, and acts on serotonin. It acts in conjunction with the opioid pathway too. But in general, I know a lot of people attribute CBD to its anxiolytic effects and the way that it kind of can mitigate some of the psychoactivity of cannabis. So in that regard, what's really fascinating is CBD is an allosteric modulator. So allosteric means it binds to a site on the receptor that's not the active site. So say THC, which is a partial agonist of CB1.
Yeah.
Not a full agonist, it's a partial agonist. And it causes psychoactivity. But CBD will come and it'll bind to the bottom or some other part of the receptor, not the active site where the THC is partially binding. And it'll change its conformation so the THC is not able to bind as efficaciously as before, mitigating some of the psychoactivity. CBD also plays this allosteric modulation role on the opioid receptors, and I think that's why we're finding that, I think it goes deeper than just, cannabis offers some pain relief. When we look into the mechanisms by which it offers that pain relief, we see why it's been so incredibly effective at helping patients get off of opioids, or at least use less opioids.
Yeah, right. Because I noticed that with the people at that pain management clinic, they were able to get off or lower their doses because they started taking the cannabis and CBD products. It seemed to make their medicines work better, or the medicine was more effective, or they didn't have to take as big of a dose. And I would always tell them, make sure to take your cannabis 2 hours before or after your prescription medications, just in case, but yeah, it was amazing. I would see one of my patients, I can remember he was on 18 prescriptions. Wow. And then he came in a few months after we were working with him, crying to me thank you saved my life. I'm only on one prescription now.
That's
and my cannabis.
Incredible.